Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and call our bi-weekly business meeting to order here. We're glad you're all with us, and we're going to start our time this afternoon with an invocation brought to us by Davlin Dusterhouse, chaplain for Baptist St. Anthony's, USA.
This prayer should be short because when I looked online at 117 pages, y'all have been busy. So God, continue to bless our mayor and this city commission, this council, their decisions, but all the good they do for the citizens of our area. We also pray for your guidance, for them, and for all citizens who choose to vote this upcoming election. May we always look to your will and your desires. We ask your blessing upon this meeting, all present, those viewing, and all the desires that lie deep within our hearts. We give them all to you in faith, in Jesus' name. Amen.
We're pleased to have 3 proclamations to celebrate today, and the first proclamation we're going to recognize is for Elevate Amarillo. Councilman Eddie Sauer will be bringing that one.
Okay, so do we have anybody here from?
I do see some members of Elevate. Y'all come on up.
Yep.
Ooh, a strong.
All right, that's awesome. Nothing like a telemarketer.
Okay, good. Not the person here.
No. Well, that empties out about half the room, doesn't it? That's awesome. It's a great group.
Not as much as I used to.
So before I start, I want you all to just take a peek at the faces that you see up here. This is the future of our city. These are the ones who are interested in helping improve Amarillo, make Amarillo the best it can be. They're our next set of leadership that is stepping up and into the place. And so for me, this is an incredibly great honor to be able to present this proclamation to you guys. Whereas Elevate Amarillo was founded to encourage, engage, and elevate young leaders in our community through participation in civic dialogue, nonprofit management, and business leadership. And whereas Elevate Amarillo educates young leaders in our community to prepare them for service by offering civic training on how to best fulfill the roles on boards and commissions. And whereas the thorough curriculum of Training Better prepares young leaders for service in our community. And whereas the training provides a strong understanding of the functions of city government and the responsibilities of board members in our community. And whereas individuals who complete civic leadership training should receive top-of-mind consideration for the positions of leadership. Now, therefore, we, Mayor and City Council members of the City of Amarillo, do hereby proclaim October 25th, 2022 as Elevate Amarillo Day in Amarillo and encourage all citizens to do their part to keep people of all ages engaged and involved in our community. Given under our hands and seal of office this 25th day of October, Honorable Ginger Nelson, Cole Stanley, Frida Powell, Eddie Sauer, and Howard Smith. So, Skylar, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do we keep the
I'll give that to you in a second.
Thank you.
I'll just hold it here while you
Okay.
talk. How's that?
That's perfect. First, thank you guys so much for having us. I've appreciated the opportunity to work with the City Council on kind of putting together just this understanding that the work that Elevate is doing is mutually beneficial, not only to our membership, but to City Council and the city in general, certainly its future. So I guess just very excited to formalize what has always been in the best interest of kind of everybody involved. I know we're excited about the work that Elevate's doing right now, and certainly excited about the future in this partnership with the city. So thank you guys so much.
You're going to get back to painting someday.
Our next proclamation is National Family Caregivers Month, and Councilmember Cole Stanley has that one.
Thank you, Mayor. Miss Jamie Sharp, are you here? You got a few with you? Perfect. Come on up. How are you today?
Doing good.
Welcome.
Hey, Colin.
How are you? Good to see you. Hello again. How are you? Okay, I'll read this. All right, whereas the first rule of taking care of others is taking care of yourself first. Caregiving can be a rewarding experience, but it is also physically and emotionally demanding. The stress of dealing with caregiving responsibilities leads to a higher risk of health issues among the nation's 90 million family caregivers. And whereas nutritious eating helps promote good health, maintaining a healthy diet is one of the most powerful things caregivers can do to take care of themselves. And whereas poor nutrition is a problem for many older adults, up to half of the older adults are at risk for malnutrition. Many times, this risk goes undetected, leading to the loss of muscle strength, longer hospital stays, increased readmissions. Recognizing nutrition as a vital sign of older adult health and including malnutrition screening and health care quality initiatives can help improve recovery from illness and hospitalization, which benefits everyone in the family. And whereas the recognition of families as valued caregivers is growing every year in our country, it is even more important to encourage them to take care of themselves and their own nutrition as well as the nutrition of their loved ones, so they can continue to give the heartfelt care on which their loved ones depend. And finally, whereas family caregivers have the best interest of their loved ones at heart, a family caregiver must remember to pay attention to their own physical and mental wellness. Only by taking care of yourself can you be strong enough to take care of your loved one. You really do need to take care to give care. Now, therefore, we, Mayor and City Council members of the City of Amarillo, do hereby recognize November 2022 as National Family Caregivers Month, given under our hands and seal of office, your Honorable Mayor and Council.
Thank you. I'm Jamie Sharp. I'm with the Area Agency on Aging, and just want to thank you for having us and having the proclamation. There's millions of unpaid caregivers every day. I myself and even some of my coworkers have faced that challenge. So we just want to be able to recognize caregivers. And next month, we're having a 2-day conference. So look us up on Facebook and pass it on to a caregiver. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Our last proclamation today is for National Paralegal Day, and Mayor Pro Tem Frida Powell is going to read that proclamation.
Thank you, Mayor. So do we have Miss Rhonda Brashears here today to join me? Well, come on up. Hey, you get to be like the lone person or the lone ranger. We appreciate you being here. So, whereas in 1981, the State Bar of Texas first established the Legal Assistance Division, now referred to as the Paralegal Division, to enhance legal assistance participation in the administration of justice, professional responsibility, and public service in cooperation with the State Bar. And whereas a paralegal is someone who is qualified through various combinations of education, training, and work experience and is employed by a lawyer, law office, governmental agency, and serves in a function which involves the performance of, and whereas paralegal is one of the highest demand jobs in the United States. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the profession is expected to grow 12% over the next decade. And whereas the recognition of this day serves as a reminder that without the assistance from a paralegal, the arguments of many attorneys would not be possible. And whereas now, therefore, we mayor and city council members of the city of Amarillo do hereby proclaim October 23rd, 2022 as Paralegal Day in Amarillo, Texas, given under our hand and seals of office this 24th day of October, 2022, the Honorable Mayor Ginger Nelson, council members Cole Stanley, Frida Powell, Dr. Eddie Sauer, and Howard Smith. So, Ms. Rhonda, we present this proclamation to you. Would you like to say a few words?
Sorry.
I'll let you go ahead and speak first.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the recognition. I will let all of the paralegals in Amarillo know what a big deal this was made of. I had no idea. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Alan. Okay, Mr. City Manager, I think you've got an announcement about the Triple Crown Award. A very big announcement.
Yes, ma'am. The Triple Crown is, I'm going to let Laura Storrs, Assistant City Manager and Chief Financial Officer, come up and talk about this. This is her bailiwick, but this is the biggest deal for financial departments in the state of Texas with regard to cities. So.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm actually going to turn this over to Matt Poston. He's our new Finance Director, and his team is really the one that brings all of these efforts to fruition. So,
thanks, Laura. Okay, so we recently got announced that we won the Triple Crown Award, which is an award by the Government Finance Officers Association for excellence in financial reporting. There's three, because it's a Triple Crown, there's three phases of it, or three different awards you have to win to get the Triple Crown. And it's the Certificate of Achievement and Excellence for Financial Reporting, which would be our audited financial statements, known as the ACFR. It's our popular annual financial report, which is also called the PAFR, and that's more of like the condensed financial statements that we send out. And then also our Distinguished Budget Award. So we won all three of those awards for fiscal year 22. So we're one of just 317 governments that received the Triple Crown for the fiscal year 2020. So it really is a significant achievement. You know, it really demonstrates the high standards we have in each one of these important financial documents. We have a long history of solid financial management, and I intend to keep that as finance director going forward. We have a great road. We've been winning the Financial Statement Award for 45 years in a row. We've had the Budget Award for 31 years in a row, and we've got the PAFR Award, which is a newer award for just the last 10 years. So we really want to thank the council and city management for their support in making good financial decisions and equipping us with a team. Some of my team is here. We have 12 accountants on staff, 3 CPAs, and then a number of administrative support positions as well. So each of these documents, a lot of work goes into for every document, for the budget, for the audit, and for the PAFR as well. So we appreciate the work that our team does and the support we get from council, mayor, and city management.
We appreciate your leadership, Matt. I would like to invite everyone from the finance department up, and if we could take a picture, just celebrating and marking this. This is a fantastic honor, and you guys work very hard at it. So I want to make sure that we mark this. So Matt, get your team up here. Let's take a picture.
I think they deserve
a round of applause. Thank you, Eddie. I wonder if it would work. Monica, Joy, do y'all think it would work for council to stay up on the dais and them to stand in front? Like this. If you wouldn't mind coming out. Sure, we don't mind. Debbie Reed's already gone, but she's recently retired. That award was definitely partly at least due to her leadership and her diligence in doing her job too. So, okay, the next portion of our agenda is public address. I'll pass the microphone to our moderator for that.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for participating in today's City Council meeting. Your input and your opinions are important to us, and we are glad that you're here to share them. At each posted meeting, we invite our fellow community members to address City Council regarding posted agenda items. Every speaker has 3 minutes to address Council. At the end of 2.5 minutes, you will hear a warning beep alerting you that you have 30 seconds left to wrap up your thoughts. We ask that you stay within the 3 minutes allotted. Speakers are asked to limit your comments to items on today's posted agenda. We do have several public hearings on the agenda today, so if you're here to speak on a public hearing, we would ask that you either make your comment during public address or during the public hearing, but not both, in order to help us keep accurate records. It's your decision on at which point you'd like to speak. When you come to the microphone, please state your name, whether or not you live in the City of Amarillo city limits, and if you are speaking for, on, or against your item. Again, thank you for being here today. We have 2 citizens signed up for public address. The first is Ricky Cantu, and after Mr. Cantu will be Daniel Martinez. You can start. Yes, sir.
My name is Ricardo Cantu. I live at 2400 Parker, and I'm here to speak about K, the record contract. Anyway, so I brought some paperwork with me. if I could pass it.
Sure. If you don't mind just handing it to the officer, and he'll bring it to us. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, on page 1, we have August 23rd, 2022, a letter that came out from the city that was informing us that based on the evaluation that the city had recommended T. Miller for the record contract. So we had some questions and thoughts. We sent some emails to the city on September 12th, which is the second page. On Fact 1, it says that on August 26th and September 1st of 22, that they have not made a decision, but on page 1, it says that the decision had already been made, which was 3 days before the letter to the AG's office had gone out. So I wanted y'all to take a look at that and see what y'all's thoughts were about that. And then I also wanted to speak on the actual contract given to T. Miller, which is a good company, great people, a good company. I feel like they cannot handle this contract by themselves. They already have the current Potter County contract, so they take care of all of the Sheriff's Department, which comes with the Department of Public Safety. They dispatch all the calls for the Department of Public Safety. So now they have Potter County, DPS, and the City of Amarillo contract. I don't think anybody here could handle that contract with that much work. So it's concerning to me that we gave them that contract as a city. And I just wanted to bring those thoughts and concerns to you guys as y'all are the stewards of our community. And that's basically all I have to say.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Cantu. Next, Mr. Martinez.
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Martinez, and I reside in the city of Amarillo, 5609 Marydale Drive. Mayor, City Council, I appreciate the time today. I speak in opposition to Kay. I don't believe it's in the best interest of the city of Amarillo to have one sole wrecking company with that authorization. I don't believe they have the personnel to handle the load, just like Mr. Cantu pointed out. I believe the rotation method has worked much better. It's much equitable. All taxpayers get to receive the services they need in a quicker basis when an accident occurs. In today's website, there was 23 officers short of personnel needed to handle the workload for police officers. That puts the load further on the fire department. When we have an accident and people have to wait for more than 30 minutes to an hour just to clear an intersection, an area, backlogs that traffic. I mean, I drive the city roads every single day like many of you, especially Coulter, Bell, Sonsi, where that traffic is very heavy. I don't think it's equitable. I don't think it's fair. I don't believe it's the best safety for the citizens of Amarillo to have one sole person awarded that contract. A rotation basis works best. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Mayor, this concludes public address.
Thank you, Stephanie. At this time, then, we'll move on to the next portion of our agenda, which is Agenda Item 1A. Was there anything in your packet, Council, that you needed extra information on or questions about right at the very beginning of the meeting? Sorry, did I skip something?
If I may, we were going to reorder and do consent.
Oh, we were. Sorry. It's right in front of me. Okay. Council, because we have some guests here with us today on a couple of agenda items that are further down into the agenda, they have an airplane they're trying to catch. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to change the order. We're going to do first the consent agenda, then we're going to move over and do items E and F on the action agenda, and then we'll come back and do start it back at item 1A. So looking at the consent agenda, is there anything there that needs to come off for further discussion or questions?
No,
Okay.
Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by the Mayor Pro Tem and seconded by Dr. Sauer to approve the items on the consent agenda. All of those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That passes with a 4-0 vote. Moving over to item 3E, which is to consider approval of a location incentive agreement between the AEDC and Coast Packing Company, South.
All right, Mayor, we've got Kevin Carter, President and CEO of Amarillo Economic Development Corporation, to present the item. Kevin, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Mayor, Council, bring to you today Coast Packing Company. With a legacy a century in the making. This is their 100th year in business this year. And so what a legacy. They are considering putting in a food manufacturing facility here in Amarillo in our Centerport Business Park. But before I get started, I want to introduce the fourth generation owner of Coast Packing, Eric Gustafson, and then a Vice President of Operations, Chavis Ferguson. They're here. They presently have a facility in Vernon, California that dates back to the 100 years that they've been in business. The opportunity is they're sourcing locations for this 50,000 square foot manufacturing facility that would have a capital expenditure of over $30 million and create at least 40 new jobs within the first phase of the operation. This is the location. This is our Centerport Business Park. The property is located on Centerport Boulevard. If you can, I don't think this thing has a pointer.
Yeah, it's pointing.
Actually, it does. That doesn't show up on the TV. So Andrew, if you can go to that building to the left, right there, that's GRI. That's the wind turbine manufacturer. The business to the right, over there in the corner, right corner, that's SSI Foods. That's the newest business in that park. And so we're excited about the opportunity that Coast presents here to take that piece of land right there. The Economic Development Corporation, based on their guidelines for incentive, are offering Coast Packing a job creation incentive of $12,000 per FTE to be paid up to 60 employees paid out over 5 years. Their average salary is over $55,000 a year. Land conveyance, we would convey that land of 30.05 acres, and then we would provide up to $1 million in rail side improvement for switches and industry track on that piece of property. The Amarillo EDC board approved that at their October Board of Directors meeting on a 5-0 vote. I'd certainly answer any questions that you might have. It's a great opportunity. In the next slide, when I present for tax abatement, I'll talk about the economic impact on a yearly basis, but it's significant.
I don't think we have any questions.
Okay.
So, Council, do we have a motion then with regard to the LIA?
Yes, Mayor, we do. I move to award a location incentive agreement between Amarillo Economic Development Corporation and Coast Packing Company, South. Under the location incentive agreement, Amarillo Economic Development Corporation will provide Coast $720,000 for the creation of jobs to be paid out over 10 years as they are created, and will convey 30.03 acres valued at $1,200,000 to Coast.
Second.
It's been moved by the Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Dr. Sauer to approve the LIA with regard to Coast Packing Company. Any questions on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes with a 4-0 vote. Mr. Carter, item F.
Yes, ma'am. Come today also to ask for tax abatement on their real business and personal property based on the incentive guidelines that this body has approved. $30 million in capital expenditure, at least 40 new full-time jobs with an average annual salary of $55,000. We are requesting an 8-year, 80% tax abatement based on the real business and personal property. The economic impact that you can see here is over $220 million over a 20-year period. That's an $11 million a year economic impact. With the 40 new jobs, with them being manufacturing, there's 128 spin-off jobs based on those 40 manufacturing jobs. Manufacturing obviously has one of the biggest spin-off rates of created jobs that go along with those manufacturing jobs. So based on the criteria set forth in the incentive guidelines that the city's adopted, we're asking for an 8-year, 80% tax abatement.
Questions for Mr. Carter about that proposed tax abatement? Thank you, Mr. Carter.
Thank you.
Mr. Gustafson, or do you guys want to say anything? I know you weren't expecting to get called on, but you come all the way to Amarillo. We want to welcome you here.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor and honorable members of the City Council. Thank you for having us here today. We greatly appreciate the opportunity to work together. As Kevin Carter mentioned, this is our 100th anniversary. My dad and I talked about building a new facility over the last 15, 20 years. And to see that this is finally coming to fruition, I wish he was here to see it, quite frankly. And it's incredible. So a lot of responsibility for myself and the rest of our team to execute, but we're looking forward, as we say, to the next 100 years and being a part of the Amarillo community for now and the future. And we really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Well, big decision, but a big opportunity, and Amarillo is very honored to be a part of this next season of growth for your company. And we welcome you to our city, and we're very excited about the opportunity for us and for you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Wish you guys a safe trip home.
Any questions before
Questions, Council?
I step away?
I just want to say thank you for choosing Amarillo.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Appreciate that.
Thank you for believing in us.
Yes.
Sure.
Fantastic. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion with regard to this one. Yes.
Yes, Mayor, we do. I move to award a tax abatement agreement between the City of Amarillo, Amarillo Economic Development Corporation, and Coast Packing Company South. The agreement would provide for an abatement of future taxes on the construction and equipment cost at 80% abatement for 8 years on $30 million estimated cost of improvements.
Second.
It's been moved by the Mayor Pro Tem and seconded by Dr. Sauer to approve this tax abatement agreement. Any further discussion on the motion? All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. That passes with a 4-0 vote. Okay. Thank you, guys. Enjoy your flight home. And we appreciate the work that the AEDC team does, bringing us another new business to Amarillo to grow our economy and diversify.
Say hats off to the governor's office. This was a governor's office lead back in 2020. And then also BNSF Railroad helped with this project as well. So we appreciate those two entities for bringing us the project.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Those are good partners. We're glad to have them.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Okay, item 1A, I think we had passed. Item 1B is to discuss the solid waste update. Mr. City Manager.
All right, Mayor, we've got Donnie Hooper, Director of Public Works, to present the item. We are, just as a reminder, we are going to continue to present this topic until we move fully to twice-a-week collections. We are able to achieve that some now, and certainly on request, but until we get to routine twice-a-week collections throughout all of our residential accounts, then we're going to continue giving this update to council. Donnie, take it away.
Perfect lead into it. I've started every presentation with a little bit of a story, and I'll make this one really brief. Because my wife has a very good sense of humor, and she's very witty. She's funny. So if you don't laugh at this, it's probably the wrong story to tell you to begin this meeting. But the other night, we were planning a trip to Vegas, as we do once a year. And we got to talking about acts that were playing in some of the different places, and they're called residency acts. And she said, I wonder, what does it take to become a residency? And I said, I don't know. You got to be washed up. Nobody wants to see your act anymore, and, not as many as did before. And she said, yeah, kind of like appearing weekly at the city council meeting, huh? So, okay, you laughed. At least it worked. So she was just being funny. But we are going to be here until we get this completed. And I think we're getting close. We made some really, really good progress this week as far as hiring employees, as we'll go through the numbers and give that to you. Just a reminder, I put this in here. I want to keep these in all the presentations just to remind you where we started, the things that we began implementing, and solutions that we're providing to
solid waste. And then this is last week's list in the blue, and then you also have the red that's on there too. So these are the things that we've accomplished in this last week. It's not as many, and there's one that I left off of here that I'm going to tell you about in just a moment too. But our prototype for a convenience center, which does affect this in a lot of ways, is now complete. We met with the innovation team last week. We had a long meeting with that, and the plan is to have a prototype that's going to be built so we can run a specific group of people through there that have been working, citizens that have been working with the innovation team, have them go through there and make sure that that thing works for the citizens. They had a model that was set up where you could drive a vehicle through there by hand, and they did that same thing. But now we're actually going to have them bring items, put them in their vehicles, run it through the prototype location, make sure that it works. We've started the process of not permitting, but notification to TCEQ that we are going to have these sites. We're starting to select the different locations that they're going to be permanently placed at. And so a lot of progress toward those convenience centers. And Mayor, as you had requested at the last meeting, Jordan and his crew are ready to come give an update in November. Rick is actually going to be in town. He's going to come here for the prototype, and we're going to be out there all day long. The entire innovation team is going to be out there with the citizens running through that. Once that's buttoned up, and they'll come back and give you a presentation here at council as well on what that's going to look like, then we'll be able to move forward with getting those permanent locations in place and getting those done. So I'm excited about that. I think it's going to help us a lot. The next one will be talking about technology. Tomorrow we have a meeting with a group called NordSense, and this is something that was set up from the IT department. Rich and his team found this group, and I'll just tell you a little bit about it. This is going to be more future down the line thinking toward the budget year next year. NordSense creates an item that goes inside of a dumpster. It's a little puck, if you will, that has a lot of intelligence attached to it. Every 15 seconds, it sends a laser signal out into that container to see how much waste is in there. And it reports it back to a system that can also be tracked while you're driving, monitoring that. We wanted to look into that. Melissa found that for us. She got with Rich about that, and it was at a conference that she saw somewhere, and she said, hey, this may be a solution. So we started conversations with them. They're going to be in town tomorrow. So we'll have a demonstration of that and possibly even do a little bit of a pilot to see what that looks like, even if it's just for a small portion of our dumpsters to see what we can do with that. I think it's a lot of the direction that a lot of cities are. It's the direction that a lot of cities are going now. Instead of doing things the old-fashioned way, the way we've always done it, they're trying to find new ways that we can be more efficient with what we're doing, especially in the commercial area. So that's something we're going to do tomorrow. Route Smart's another company that I spoke with at TML. Texas Municipal League annual conference, and they have maybe a product that will be able to work in our alley. Routing software for solid waste is very difficult to come by for what we do here because not all cities use alleys. Most of it's done by street, and it's done by polycarts or containers that are in the front of a house. So it's easy to map because you have streets to drive on that in turn go into the system. They think they have a solution that will work in alleys as well. So we're going to open those boxes up and look and see, and if we find others in the meantime that may have the same solution, we're going to look into those. And again, these will be things that we'll be evaluating between now and budget time so that we can bring it back to council if we find some ideas that may be better future solutions for us there. Our job fairs, in fact, I think there's one going on today. Am I right? Okay. There's job fairs, any of those that we can participate in, we are doing. And we're keeping an eye out for those. And I must say, HR, I keep giving them props during this, but they have worked hand in hand with us on everything from hiring to making sure that we have job fairs, we have different places that we can go to recruit employees, and it's working. Our hiring is net positive this week, and I'll tell you about those numbers in just a second. Then contract progress. I talked the last council meeting about a meeting with Republic that was very positive. We continue those discussions this past week, and then also sit down for about an hour with Diversified and had coffee with Brandon Brown, had a very enjoyable conversation with him on Friday. And prior to that, we had a conversation last Wednesday that was almost an hour as well on the telephone. So very positive conversations there, and I think we're going to be able to work something out. We're still working on contract negotiations with them and fine-tuning all that contract. I met with Brian this week about that as well, and just some of the things that we need to do in that exhibit to make that right for those businesses that want to participate in that. Next slide would be the residential roll-off program. Very happy about this. We've still got all our roll-offs in place. We collected another 200 tons, and the leader this time was the Southwest Library, which had a lot the last time as well. But if you combine that 200 tons with the 300-plus tons that we had on the last report, That's over 1 million pounds since we finished with National Cleanup Day, which is 312 Volkswagens. Kat always wants me to bring up the Volkswagens thing, but that's 312 Volkswagens that we've collected since National Cleanup Day. So we're very proud of what we're doing with the roll-off program. We are getting some help with that as well from our partner at News Channel 10. We're working with the Project Clean that they're working on and working in alleys. So they've done a pretty good job as well, and they're giving us a good evaluation of what they're seeing in the alleys. They're working in San Jacinto right now, by the way. Okay, so here's the most important numbers of the whole thing. Starting this week, these are employees that are starting this week, 15 new employees that have went through orientation and are on the books and starting. We have the possibility of 6 new employees next week, and that would be a potential of 21. So if you take the 15 that we've added, that gives our actual workforce at 60 when we need 79 to be completely full in equipment. This is just equipment operators in solid waste. And we have 66 in the potential workforce, so that leaves us 13 shy there in equipment operators. That is the biggest thing that's happened to us in the past 2 weeks, is that right there. And orientation was full. I think that now there's going to be some time to train them. We've got the training facilities to do that now, which I know that our supervisors and coordinators have said that's going to work out great for that and expedite the process of getting them ready to actually run the trucks there. So positive numbers there. We'll just kind of break that down into residential and commercial, the two that we're focusing on. We need a combined 58 to fill both of those different areas. We have 28 in residential with those numbers, with a needing 42. We added the majority of our hires to the commercial side, and that's because of the numbers that I showed you last week that we were really struggling in commercial last week. So we've added those. We got 15 out of 16 in commercial, 43 combined in those positions there when we again need 58 for the total. So how are we doing? Residential is still doing very well. We've leveled out and right around that 20 to 30 mark as far as missed service reports. And again, I just want to throw this disclaimer out there. We know that there may be other things that are out there that we're not hearing about, but we try to make sure that anything that comes to council, anything that comes to us in Public Works, anything that goes to solid waste gets added to this data. So again, 31 there, and we got a good handle on commercial and brought those numbers back down to the 70. The only downfall that's not in the stat sheet about commercial is we lost another truck this week as far as major repairs that have to be done to another one. So we got one back, we lost one, so we're still at 5 out of the 10 front load trucks that we have. And commercial does have side load trucks that work in that area as well. But our front load trucks are the ones we've been struggling with as far as maintenance. Then this last slide, I just wanted to put this on here just as a reminder that that's not all that solid waste does. This is data that I look at and Alan looks at every week. We still have our dumpster repair program, our alley work order program, our alley cleanup, our front yard collections. So we are still looking at all this, but even when we get back to twice a week collections, we'll still have a little bit of work to do as far as beefing up those staff so that we're at 100% in those levels. So overall in solid waste, we're 97 out of 160 employees. That includes utility workers, office personnel, and such, so as well as some equipment operators at the landfill. So I just wanted to throw that on there. That's a data sheet that we look at every week, and just wanted to keep that on the forefront of our presentation. Next city council meeting, we'll talk about discussing employment numbers, time frame for returning to twice per week collections, and discuss other data regarding performance. I will tell you that right now I'm feeling pretty good about saying by December, by the time we get in the first part of December, we should be there. If we continue to hire at the rate we're hiring now and we don't lose employees, I think we're going to be at that point in December that we would be able to go back to twice a week collection. The target for residential drivers would be 36. I know we have 42 positions, but at 36 was originally what we told council that we'd be able to go back to. So I think we're on track for that, and I'm just really proud of what our staff has done. They've really stepped up. They're interviewing people like crazy as fast as they can get them in there, and again, HR is processing them as fast as they can as well. So any questions you may have, I'll try to answer them.
Yes, Donnie, I do have one question. So where's the prototype convenience center going to be located? The first one that's kind of the
It is going to be run. It's going to be near Thompson Park. I'll tell you that, and we're not really putting that out for public. Now we'll send it to you in an email. It's by Thompson Park, and the reason we're not doing that is because we'd like to just have a select group of people run through there to test it first. Okay. But it's going to be in a very accessible location in the northwest part of town up by Thompson Park where we have some property that we can use up there. If that answer satisfies you, we would really like to test it first and just make sure that it's working before we open it up to the public.
No, that answers my question. I appreciate that.
Okay, you're welcome.
Yes, sir, Donnie. On the new employees that you're hiring, what is the turnaround time for going through training before they're in a vehicle running it themselves?
We're hoping 2 weeks. And again, as I mentioned before, it's really, everybody is a little bit different in the way that they learn, in the way that they can function. The mechanical devices are in those trucks, but I would say the average is probably 2 weeks. Some of them will probably see action in there next week. I mean, they're going through orientation this week, and I could see them in a truck next week. It just really depends. And then there may be 1 or 2 of them out there that are beyond 2 weeks, but I'm comfortable with 2.
What's your status on equipment? How many we got rolling, and how many do we need repairs on? And do those coincide with this December schedule as far as having the tools?
They do, and that's also taken into account that I do think that we have some positive traction on getting some contracts with Republican Diversified right now to get some equipment and personnel from them to help us out. Right now, we at one point in time we have 10 of the front load trucks, and we were at 6, and then we lost one, and then we got one back, and then we lost another one, so we were actually at 4 of 6 at the first of last week, and I think 4 of 10, and now 5 of 10 this week in front loads. Side loaders, I don't have that number off the top of my head right now of how many we have in commercial, but they're in pretty good shape because we have so many spares in residential that we can swap one out. If we lose a side loader, we can always grab another one and put it into service, so it's always been pretty good there. We do have the biggest struggle is still getting the equipment in. We have 2 front loaders that are ordered. Both of them are still on a delayed schedule for delivery, and we have some side loaders ordered as well. I think a total of, is it 6 side loaders? I'm just speaking off the top of my head, and Alan's going to say no, I don't know right now either. I think there's 6 that are on order, and I can bring those numbers to you in the next presentation if you'd like to see that as well. We can add equipment to this. You can see the status of it.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions for Donnie? All right, Donnie, we appreciate the work your team's doing. I think we're trending in the right direction here, so keep it up.
Thank you.
Item 1C is to discuss board and commission appointments. Mr. City Manager.
Mayor, we've got City Secretary Stephanie Coggins to come up and make a very brief presentation to council. I'm really just wanting to call everyone's attention to the fact that this is coming up in our upcoming meeting in November, and it's our annual appointment of citizens to our boards and commissions. Stephanie.
Thank you, Jared. Mayor, Council, this is, again, just a reminder, your next meeting on November 8th, we will consider board and commission appointments. So bring a blanket, bring a pillow. I know that takes a little while, but we're going to have some information to you Friday of this week. We'll get you a binder with applications, with the boards that need appointments, so that you'll have a week to look through those before we get to the council meeting. If you have any citizens interested in serving, if you'll please have them reach out to me. They can call us at 806-378-3014, or they can email citysecretary@amarillo.gov. We want to make sure we get them plugged in and have their information ready for you before you make considerations. So just wanted to put that little pin on your radar that that's coming at our next meeting.
Any questions for Stephanie about the process there?
I just have one question. Had a citizen ask me, he resides outside of the city. We have boards and commissions that allow you to serve even though you're not a resident, or?
We do, as long as they live in Potter or Randall County. That's what our Code of Ordinances allows.
And does it differ from one committee to the next, or is it across the board?
I'd have to check. There may be some that are specific to city limit participation, and there are some boards that have specific requirements based on your profession. We have some that are even based on which part of the city limits you live in. Some of our community development boards, for example, have representation from certain areas of the city.
Do we have any of that online where it's easy for them to go and see it, or is that easier for them to just contact you?
Might be easier for them to contact us. It's online, Mr. Stanley, but it's in our municipal code, which can get a little confusing. So if there's a particular board they're interested in, they want to know if they are qualified to serve on, we'd be happy to help them with that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Stephanie?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and everyone, those are coming, they'll be at City Hall or they'll be delivered?
We will probably deliver them like we do your agendas, and we can coordinate with each of you ahead of time to make sure if you want to pick them up, you can.
Yeah, and I'll just pick mine up, so thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you for all the work that you and Johnny do to prepare those packets. Item 1D is updates from council members serving on outside boards and commissions. The first report is Mayor Pro Tem, Convention and Visitors Bureau.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So I'm happy to say that we have today here Cashin Smith, who is the Executive Director for the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and they do have a presentation for us, and I think Hope Stokes was going to come with you too, or she...
Well, we decided to do it on PDF to make sure we didn't have internet issues, so
Okay.
She didn't have to come with me. So this actually
Perfect.
is a live reporting system that we unveiled to our board this week, or in last week. And we will also give all of you and the city managers access to this tool so that you can go in and really look. And if there are things that you think would be interesting to have laid over the information that we have there or read better in a different order, we're welcoming that feedback to build it out so that we can better partner with other parts of the city. So this is the high level of the overall tool. There are many parts to it. But it's the executive summary. And of course, we start out with the hotel lodging information, which is hotels and short-term rentals. So that lays over the STR report with key data, which has proven to be a really good tracking tool for the short-term rentals. It'll break down occupancy, ADR, RevPAR, and then whenever we get, I know this is small, hopefully y'all got a copy of this as well, I believe.
And Cashin, could you explain some of the acronyms for the council members that
Yes, I'm
are
sorry.
not aware?
ADR is average daily rate, and RevPAR is revenue per available room. So basically, that is how much revenue you've collected off of the rooms you've sold divided by the actual number of rooms in your inventory. So ADR is based only on what you've actually sold. So there's a little bit of a difference. I personally like to look at RevPAR. It really speaks to the balance of the occupancy and the rate integrity in my book. So that's my favorite number on that. But there's a couple of different ways to look at it if you want to just look at the basic numbers or the graphs. And there are different places whenever you're live online that you can actually click on to expand details and pull the actual reports in to view the full reports. The length of stay that you see on here is actually based on our geolocation, visitations to the website, and then coming into market. So this is a little bit different than what you'll see on the state's website. This gives us a really good idea of the actual interactions with our website and helps us gauge how our office is actually pulling visitors in. And we'll see a little bit more about this as well.
Cashin, how do they collect that STR data?
So the STR data is a census of the hotels. That is something that in most cases your flag will report for you. If you're an independent hotel, then you actually report that on your own. But say you're a Hilton property.
Can you go backwards, pretty please? I guess I'm not the hotel lodging. I'm looking at the short-term rental, and I'm assuming, so is that hotels who have stays past 30 days, are they counting as short-term rentals? Is that what
No,
you're
the
saying?
short-term rentals are Airbnbs,
Okay,
VRBOs.
so that's what I'm asking. Is how is that data collected? Is it just collected based on who pays hotel occupancy tax, and we're still missing a lot of people?
No, this is actual reporting based on longitude, latitude off of the sites that are actually being booked. So it is, from what we can tell, we used to go by AirDNA. It wasn't as complete. We knew our sample was a little bit smaller, and it was really confusing to compare to the hotels. And the last couple of years, there's been a couple of companies that have come out that have a lot clearer definitions and are much easier to compare to the occupancy and the rates that we're seeing in the hotels. So it's much more apples to apples on the numbers. Key data is one of those, and we're finding them to be pretty accurate, and they go through and track off of the websites and have contracts with the companies that actually do the short-term rentals through their sites.
Thank you.
Any more questions before I move on that one? Okay. And then it moves into the movement by industry. this one is probably one of my favorite ones. You'll see a couple of different ways to look at this as we move down. I really hope that whenever Stephanie sends out, goodness, if I can get that apart, whenever she sends out the login information, that y'all really go in there and kind of play with this data and pull up the tables that come out. So movement by industry tells us where people are when they come into market, so where our visitors are going. Sauncey shopping is always at the top. I think that speaks very much to our panhandle people that come in, and especially during the medical, out at the medical center and bringing people in for doctor's appointments. So they're very popular on here. But we do have other breakouts down below. And this does also coincide. It allows us to look at kind of where the spends are that we get off of the state's website at the end of the year to see how Amarillo is looking as far as what we're thinking they're coming in for and where we're actually seeing them spend money. So again, it's 2 data points to really let us gauge if we know our visitors the way that we think we do. Mobility and digital spend, trips, media spend. This is where we really kind of lay over what we're spending on media and when we expect those windows of visitors to come in after that. Another tool to gauge how we're doing on that. And then whenever we get into the top origins, this is off of our website. So we've got our top 5 visiting states and our metro areas. This is always something that is very interesting to, say, the airlines whenever we're working with Team Insight and having conversations about where we might be missing flights. And they're one of the reasons that we wanted to build this out the way that we did and share that, is to really have some better data for the airlines. So keep that in mind as well if you have suggestions on what you think might add to that conversation. And when you're on the mapping, you can actually click on different things to get actual numbers and look at it. It's pretty neat. And all of the dates will break out on when they were collected as well, whenever you click on things. So again, we have our top 10 POIs, which points of interest, earlier you saw just points of interest. That is a big clump of a lot of different things. These are the top 10. We have the unemployment rate on here just to kind of gauge that and see. And, you know, we know staffing has been up and down in the last couple of years in the hotel industry, especially, and with the restaurants. So just keeping an eye on that. We get inquiries about that sometimes at the office. And then the next slide, really putting in our sales tax, our measured arrivals, and our revenue enplanements. So this is another visual. For me, I think that this is really good to work with the airlines as well on. And Mike Connor and I met last week to go over this tool, and he as well is excited about especially this portion and kind of building this out better. I think this really tells a story to the airlines on when they're missing market share, because we're seeing the influx of travelers coming in, being able to track where they're coming from, how that is affecting like the sales tax, and not so much sometimes in the employment. So speaking to the visitors using the airlines. And then finally, if this was live, I would click on it. This tool right here, the movement by industry, this is our geolocations. And it is fun to go in here and click on things. It gives you more data than you ever want to know people can collect on you. So you don't see names, but basically it is tracking cell phones and mobile devices. Once they go into the website and then come into market, we can tell you how long they've been here, how long they stayed, where all they've gone. So like if you click on the Big Texan, it will tell you day by day each visitor that was on the website came into market, walked into the Big Texan, and then how long they were in market before they left. And it breaks it out per visit. So if there was 2 people, say, in the car with the mobile devices that had been on the website, it'll count those 2, but there may have been 6. We know that, you know, just 1 or 2 people probably are only searching. But it gives us a really good idea of where to spend the marketing dollars and, you know, just what people are interested in whenever we're storytelling. That was our big main point of the board meeting. This is what we've gone over, and
really what we'll be sharing and reporting off of moving forward in a lot of ways. There are pieces that we will probably roll out as we get further into it and the understanding from the board. Our communications committee goes into the marketing aspects of this, and then this year we will be rolling in all of our convention sales data and servicing data as well out of our database. We'll start talking to this reporting tool. So we will probably have other pages that we allow access to as we move forward as well. Are there any questions?
On the bar graph for POIs, why does it have Cadillac Ranch twice? I know there's a reason, I just don't know what it is.
One of them is Cadillac Ranch itself. The other one is the RV park right next to it. So that's called Cadillac Ranch RV. So whenever you go in to the appendix, you'll actually see the breakout for that. Okay. And it'll give explanations if you're seeing things in different ways. It means it might be being tracked in 2 different ways. It'll break that out too as you click on things moving through the live site.
Wow.
I can sit on this for 2 days and just play in it. So I really, really encourage you, because this isn't just for the CVB. We're really hoping it helps the conversations with the EDC, the airport, and that we can really partner better and better support some of the other departments that we all affect each other, and we know that. So.
Great. Cashin, thank you very much.
Thank you. Y'all have a
Appreciate
great
you guys. Yes. Mayor Pro Tem, anything to add to that?
Nope, just that they're doing a great job. So,
Okay, good.
nothing else
Thank
to
y'all.
add.
Dr. Sauer, Beautification and Public Arts.
Yes, ma'am. So do we have we do have it. Good. So thank goodness, as always, for Kat. And she's not here today, I don't think, is she? Okay. She always sets things up well. Okay, so we met on October the 11th. The second Tuesday of the month is when we usually have our meetings. And the main things that we talked about were the fact of the mural grant application is about to open up again. This will be the 4th year, I believe. And so the application period opens on November the 9th. The deadline or the closing of the applications will be January the 21st. And then notification of the award will occur on February the 11th of next year. And then basically completion and reimbursement request deadline will then be August. So that gives them a 6 to 7 month window by which to complete their murals. And so far things have been absolutely wonderful. We also had a Hoodoo Mural Festival update. And so as part of the money that we have provided to us, we help with some of the sponsorship of the Hoodoo Mural, the beautification of arts. And so what we did was we helped provide for the supplies for the wall that was done by individuals. And here's some of the pictures from it. And so these are from Blank Spaces and several other people that actually did this. And so I think that it turned out exceptionally well. Everybody has made lots of comments about all of these different, and there's a story behind each one of those paintings, or murals, which is just, it's absolutely fabulous. So the next thing that we actually talked about was the junction box update. So we had a agreement with Xcel Energy to the junction box that's out to the that would be to the north of the Globe News Performing Arts Center. You know how ugly those junction boxes are. And if anybody I wish Ronnie was here so I could just go ahead and kind of goad him just a little bit. I know that there are some logistical problems, safety issues sometimes associated with this, but what I want you to see is what a great mural was actually done on that junction box. And if we can figure out some way to partner with Xcel Energy on some of the other junction boxes, it would be an absolute win-win for everybody involved. So here's pictures of it that you can see, but if you get that opportunity, you should just drive by and take a look at it and see what a great idea that was. And to dress up a junction box this way is pretty fantastic. So I just want to say a shout out and a kudos to Xcel Energy for working with us on this one. And I hope that at some point in the future we can figure out a way for that to safely be done on some of the other ones, which would definitely increase the beauty here in the city. So that's where we are with that one. We are continuing also to work on the community crosswalk program and design standards. So there's been an interest on taking some of these crosswalks and turning them into mural and art, and we do realize that we talked all the way through about different ways for that to be, and so to make it really long term, you've got to use a special latex that kind of goes down that they've used on those crosswalks. The problem is it's very expensive to do that. So otherwise, these murals would last. These crosswalks would otherwise probably have about a 1-year life, a 12-month life expectancy. So there's still some continuing work on coming up with a design and program to actually even make that a possibility with some of the crosswalks. Are these all the slides? I can't remember if this is it. Is it all the slides that we had? Okay. And so that's mainly the main things. There's several things that are working in the background that will come up over the next couple of months. There's a lot that's happening out there with the beautification and arts, and so it's just really interesting to see how this has finally really gained some traction and taken hold. So, and also the announcement was also made that the Hoodoo Mural Festival next year the date's already been set for September the 30th. And so if you have not been to that, that was an incredibly great evening spent there. It was just a lot of fun. And of course, one of my favorite things to do is just watch people, and that was the penultimate opportunity to watch people in Amarillo. It was a lot of fun because there were people of all ages, all statuses. It was a great evening watching people, the citizens here in Amarillo and the Panhandle, just have a great evening together.
Questions for Dr. Sauer? Great report. We do really appreciate Xcel Energy and the partnership that they donated the cost of getting this mural done, and they were very open to the idea of doing that location. So
give us more chances.
Yeah, maybe that grows into other things, but we really do appreciate them. Okay, we're going to pass over pedestrian and bicycle safety since Councilmember Smith is not with us today, and go on to item D4, Amarillo Local Government Corporation. Mr. Stanley.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. So we had a meeting in between the last two, and so we received reports on the embassy, occupancy rate, what they're looking at, kind of their plan moving forward. It was informative. We received some reports on Hodgetown and some of the mandatory updates, the condition of the ballpark, some of the things that they need to do to stay current with their criteria, and more or less in that vein, the good shape that they're in because of the good-looking ballpark that we constructed. And so there's not a lot there that they've got to do, and the things that they do need to do, they've got a handle on. The remaining hour of our meeting primarily focused on the retail space that we have over there and what we need to do to make that successful. And so we received a report from Justin Kite and kind of gained the understanding that we're currently advertising at $20 a square foot. That includes what we call TI, or tenant improvement allowance. The board did vote and decided to reduce that to $14 a square foot. No TI allowance, just allowing that to be negotiable, in the hopes that as we market ourselves across the nation to different entities and retailers, that they would take a better look at that and maybe give Amarillo another look to come back and look for lease space. So we're doing everything that we can think of to help equip our real estate agents and those people in that industry to try to advertise for us. We After reducing our rate to 14 a square foot annual contract, we did receive a report from Jerry Danforth, and Jerry gave us a report on the idea of what does it look like with that existing shell not having concrete floors. So from a construction aspect, it's super nice to walk in and just have a very raw shell that you can work on. From a retailer standpoint, it's not so nice. It's hard for them to envision. It's hard for them to maybe look at the total cost and want to take on that work. So it makes it a little easier to market when you've got concrete floors, maybe a demising wall or two, what we call a warm white shell finish out. Heating and air, mechanical, one bathroom's already roughed in. So the report came back that our average cost should be somewhere around $60 a square foot to perform a warm white shell. So we are looking at and in discussions and don't have any answers on what we think would be money well spent yet, but we will bring that back to the council eventually. If you had a 2,000 square foot space, would you be good to finish out a warm white shell of 2,000 or 4,000 square feet, spending the $60 a square foot out of pocket up front to try to entice and attract those more local tenants that need the help to already have that down? And more of your typical retailer where, one restroom, one break room, and just 4 walls is what they need. Not a specialized, maybe restaurant concept, something like that. And then finally, we put on next agenda to have a discussion for what could be somewhat of a good exit strategy in the way of if we don't have leasees, people that want to rent downtown, maybe we have buyers. And so while trying to sell the entire parking garage is not in the conversation, what would be in the conversation is maybe taking a look at 2,000, 4,000 square foot individual spaces, the loft idea where you can address those, meter those, and be able to market those at a price per square foot where you could sell that space. So the intention then would be to draw people to downtown that say, look, I'm not interested in leasing something right there, but I sure would like to own it. And that gives us a good long-term view of being a good landlord that maybe we could sell some and keep others, or eventually parcel it all out and sell the entire thing. Either way we go, the entire board is intently looking at what does it take to make that successful and to get us on the right side of the black on the ledger. So that in a nutshell is a lot of what we've talked about, and then I expect a good discussion on the retail side of potential sellability of those spaces and what we might want to do with those.
Any questions for Councilmember Stanley?
Yeah, maybe just one. Just remind me real quick, Cole, have we completed the agreement with the hotelier as far as they have an average daily rate and an average occupancy, and they could if they don't meet that, then there is a dollar amount? Have we completed that part of the contract?
So I'm going to tell you that I don't know for sure because I wasn't involved in that, but I bet Andrew could tell me for sure.
We have.
We have completed that. So that's no longer on the table anymore. All of that's completed. So, okay. And actually, I kind of like the idea of doing looking at the different opportunities for the leasing space in the parking garage. I think it's a great idea just to get those things filled in some way, somehow.
One thing that just for my niche, I have a lot of potential customers that can't afford $1.5 million, $2 million, $3 million building. And you can get there real quick on 4,000 square feet when you have to buy an acre of land, put in all your utilities, more or less perform a small development, and then build your structure. And so the opportunity right there is that you can hit a market that nobody really can. If you had a 2,000 or 4,000 square foot space down there, you could be somewhere, $600,000, $800,000 sales price potential. And be able to attract some people where that is a small enough bite that they could own. And I think a lot of interest is shown in owning versus renting.
I think that's great.
Is LGC still paying a leasing agent for those spaces over there?
So LGC still has its current listing agreement, but it only has how many months left? And then they did go ahead and forego or credit back what the remaining contract amount was that we signed with them. So they are currently listing it, with no monthly incentive. They're just working on what they've already been hired to. And then we would look at a different agreement if we were to look at sellability.
Any other questions?
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, same thing, we'll pass on Environmental Task Force and catch that next time Howard's here. So we're down to 1E, request future agenda items or reports from the city manager. Does anyone have anything?
Yes, Mayor, the one thing that I would like to have a discussion put on the agenda for panhandling and the safety that's involved in that and what we need to be looking at to do moving forward.
Okay, can we visit more about that offline? And
Sure can.
okay, thank you. We've already done the consent agenda, so moving on to section 3 of our agenda. 3A is a public hearing and consideration of resolution 1025-22-2. Mr. City Manager.
All right, Mayor, we've got Andrew Freeman, Assistant City Manager, to discuss the next two items, which are both housing credit requests.
Yes, sir. It is that time of year again where we get these requests for support for tax credit properties for affordable housing. So I'm going to go over just quickly the background of the program. I think all of you have seen it multiple times now, but we do have two requests today. So this is administered by the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs at the state level. It's to provide capital toward development of affordable rental housing for low-income households. What it does is it provides tax credits for those developers to help offset federal tax liability in exchange for affordable rental housing. And there are two levels. It's a 4% option that's non-competitive and the 9% that is competitive. We have had both in the city of Amarillo. The most recent was the 9% competitive for the Commons at St. Anthony's, and we have many different projects that have taken advantage of the affordable 4% route. As far as what it's designed to do, it provides a source of equity for these development projects, whether it's new development or rehabbing existing units. It's supposed to maximize the number of affordable units in the state's housing supply. It's supposed to ensure that it's well maintained and operated, so they do have standards in place as far as operational requirements as well as how long they have to stay affordable. And then it's also geared to prevent losses in the state's supply of affordable housing. The city, as part of that process at the state level, is required to hold a public hearing, and then the resolutions on your agenda are for a no objection. That is included in the developer's application as far as their criteria to submit for those tax credit options. The first project to discuss on your agenda, it's the Astoria Park Apartments. Both of these are rehabs of existing apartment complexes in town. This one is located on West 15th Avenue. It was built in 1949. The project cost is approximately $25 million. It's 164 units, a different mixture of 2-bed and 3-bedroom options. The rent ranges between $874 a month up to $1,100 a month, and that's based on income levels as well. So you cannot make more than $32,000 up to about $46,000, and that's dependent on your family size, number of household members. And it's based on 60% of the area median income, which is just over $77,000 in 2022. The developer is Cohen Esri out of Kansas. We do have Stan Waterhouse, the development director, here in the audience if you have any specific questions about the project or their plans. This is just a map of the area. It's there at 15th, just east of Julian Boulevard. And then this is just a street view of the current look at the apartments. And with that, I'll take any questions you might have, or Stan is available for questions as well.
Council, do we have any questions about this project? Okay, thank you, Andrew. Do we have a motion with regard to item 3A?
Mayor, we have a public hearing.
Oh, yes, we do. At this time, we'll open a public hearing on 3A. Anyone who wishes to speak for, on, or against the matter may have 3 minutes to do so. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak about that item? We'll close the public hearing and now entertain a motion.
Yes, Mayor. I move to adopt resolution number 10-25-22-2 stating no objection for an application for 2023 non-competitive housing tax credits to the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs Housing Tax Credit Program by Astoria Park Apartments Number 2, LLC, a private entity, for Astoria Park Apartments, a redevelopment of an existing complex for affordable rental property located at 3118 West 15th Avenue.
Second.
It's been moved by the Mayor Pro Tem and seconded by Councilmember Stanley to approve item 3A. Any motion, any discussion or questions about the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. That passes with the 4-0 vote. Item 3B, Andrew.
Yes, ma'am. So the next project is the North Grand Villas. It's located at 2801 North Grand Street in North Amarillo. It was built in 2003, also approximately $25 million project, 144 units. This one is a mix of 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, and 4-bedroom units with rent ranging from $419 a month to a little over $1,200 a month, based on income levels of $20,000 to $55,000 a year. The difference being that there's a unit breakdown there that you can see in different ranges, 30%, 50%, and 60% of the area median income. Again, a little over $77,000. So there's a handful of units at the lower range of the area median income. The developer is Zimmerman Properties out of Springfield, Missouri. We do have Andrew Sennett, the Vice President of Development, here for any questions you might have. This is a location that you can see there in North Amarillo. It's just at North Grand and Mesa Verde Drive, just west of Mesa Verde School. And that is a street view of the current conditions, and they will be rehabbing the project. And any questions?
Nope, no questions. Thank you. At this time, we'll open a public hearing on agenda item 3B. Anyone who wishes to speak for, on, or against item 3B may have 3 minutes to do so at this time. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 10-25-22-3, stating no objection for an application for 2023 non-competitive housing tax credits to the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs Housing Tax Credit Program by North Grand Villas, LP, a private entity for North Grand Villas, a redevelopment of an existing complex for affordable rental property located at 2801 North Grand Street.
Second.
It's been moved by the Mayor Pro Tem and seconded by Councilmember Sauer to approve item 3B. Any discussion or questions about the motion? Hearing none, all of those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, same sign. That passes with the 4-0 vote. Item 3C.
All right, Mayor, we've got Brady Kendrick to present a rezoning of a small piece of property just north of the intersection of Bell and South Loop 335. Brady.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This item is to consider rezoning a 0.86 acre tract of unplotted land in Section 4, Block 9, BS&F Survey, Randall County, Texas, to change from Residential District 3 to Moderate Density District in the vicinity of Bell Street and Ventura Drive. And the applicant is Shay Shadow on the behalf of NASCON Group LP. The proposed zoning change is to allow for the construction of 7 single-family attached townhomes. In reviewing the future land use and character map for the tract, the map identifies this tract as being in the general commercial category, which typically calls for retail and service uses at varying scales. The Planning and Zoning Commission believed that given the tract's location on the periphery of a single-family neighborhood and on the north side of some retail development, that they felt that the applicant's proposed zoning and development type would be more appropriate land use, and believed a deviation from the future land use map was warranted. Regarding the neighborhood unit concept, the Planning and Zoning Commission believe that the request does conform with the concept given the location of the applicant's tract and surrounding development patterns in the area. Notices were sent to all property owners within 200 feet as required by state law, and 2 comments on the request have been received. The first expressed that they were not in opposition to townhomes, but had concerns about moderate density district allowing for apartments. And the second individual expressed opposition to the request and had concerns about increases in traffic, impact on property values, and concerns that if the townhomes were rentals, they would not be upkept well. Considering the just mentioned, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the request as presented with a unanimous vote.
Any questions for Brady, council? Thank you, Brady. With regard to ordinance number 8027, which is agenda item 3C, we'll now open a public hearing, and anyone who wishes to speak for, on, or against this item may do so at this time. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Seeing no one, will close the hearing and entertain a motion.
Yes, Mayor, I move to approve this item, 3C, for ordinance number 8027 as stated on the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Stanley and seconded by Councilmember Sauer to approve item 3C, ordinance number 8027. All of those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. That passes with a 3-0 vote. Item 3D.
All right, Mayor. Item 3D is a consideration of construction manager risk for the renovation of the Amarillo Hardware building as a new city hall. We've been working on this project for quite some time, and we've done a number of preliminary projects like asbestos abatement, demolition of some buildings that were in the way, site preparation, utility relocates, things like that. But to give us a very brief presentation on this selection of construction manager at risk and answer any questions council might have, we've got Jerry Danforth, our facilities director. Jerry?
Mayor and Council, on this CMAR is construction manager at risk. This will be only the second time the city of Amarillo has used this method of procurement for construction. The advantages in utilizing this allows the contractor to work with both ourselves and with the architects to negotiate on different construction methods and materials in order to control the pricing. You see represented in here, the budget does allow us to go up to $28 million, but allows us to negotiate with the contractor, and the contractors are here in the house today. Western Builders, oddly enough, or uniquely enough, I should say, they are the only other contractor that we've done a CMAR contract with, and that was for Hodgetown when we did it. They performed at a very high level with us. Obviously, we brought the project in on budget and on time, so we felt very comfortable working with them in this arrangement on this project.
Questions for Jerry? Jerry, advantages to doing CMAR?
Some of the advantages, contractors generally have different means and methods than what architects do in some of their scopes. So when they look at that, there's potential to, for example, when we did Hodgetown, two of the big things that came out, structural steel, they had the ability to source that at a better price than what the architects had designed. The other thing that was a big ticket item that everybody sees is the seats. They were unique. So the contractor brought those to the table versus what was in the original architect designs. We saved approximately $120,000 just on that one change. We look to take advantage of those opportunities on the City Hall project, knowing what construction costs are right now. Anything we can do to stay within that construction budget, we feel confident that this contractor will work with us in that way.
Any other questions for Jerry? Thank you, Jerry. Do we have a motion on this item?
Yes, Mayor. I move to approve Western Builders Incorporated as construction manager at risk for the renovation of the Amarillo Hardware Building for the new City Hall, and further authorize the city manager to negotiate and execute a final agreement for the construction of the same for the construction of same with a price not to exceed $28 million, along with all other necessary documents related to the same.
Second.
It's been moved by the Mayor Pro Tem and seconded by Councilmember Sauer to approve this construction manager at risk and authorize the city manager to negotiate this final agreement. Any further discussion or questions on that motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign.
Nay.
That passes with a 3-1 vote. Item 3G is consideration of ordinance number 8028.
All right, Mayor, we've got, this is the consideration of approving a ordinance to create a police reserve force. Chief Funtek is here to answer any questions council might have on the item. However, this is going to allow us to have a cadre of former APD police officers, that's all we're looking at the start, who would be available to assist and augment the police department and would also allow us to continue to carry their license.
Good afternoon. As Mr. Miller said, our plan as designed would be to use former APD officers that know our system, that have worked in our system. So the training, as far as getting them back up to speed, would be minimal. There's a chance if some of them had let their license lapse, we'd have to provide some training, get them back on board. But we would feel very confident in having screened those officers that left in good standing and that are willing to help our community. And as everybody knows, it's a challenge filling positions, and anything we can do to do that safely, efficiently, at very little cost to the public would be just some training and equipment. We would pair them up with another officer if they go work out on the streets. Potentially, they could always help with investigations or some inside jobs to assist as well. So we feel very comfortable that this would be a very good program to start.
And Mayor, I was not here for the last council meeting, but I did go back and review the council meeting itself. And so as I understood, those officers would not be weaponized. Is that correct? Or would they?
That's not my understanding.
Okay, so enlighten me then.
Well, and I have to apologize because Chief Birkenfeld really led the charge on that.
Okay.
We're not going to put officers out there that are not armed.
Okay. All right.
They would be in
full,
every way
active, licensed police officers.
Okay.
In every way, they're going to be just like every other police officer that we have.
Absolutely.
Now, possibly what you're referencing is that the chief said the goal was not to put them out on patrol by themselves, and Chief Funtek said that if they're out on patrol, they'll probably be working to augment and assist with other officers. Also be very useful for ceremonial events. We had a couple of parades recently where we didn't have enough staffing, really, or as much staffing as we would have liked to manage all of the intersections. So there's going to be a lot of things that these people can do. It's all volunteer work on their behalf. It benefits them in that they get to keep sharp on their skills and maintain their license. It benefits the department because we have a number of officers that are available to us when we need them.
Mayor Pro Tem, you may be thinking about the public safety officer that we had proposed in previous budgets. Those positions would not be armed. There would be ones where they can take police reports where you don't need a sworn officer, there's no suspects on the scene. They could help with found property, traffic, things of that nature. So that's a completely different program.
Okay.
Any other questions for Chief?
No, that's all I have.
Mayor, I did want to just double check it. We may have spoken about benefits. So can we go back to that? All of these former employees of APD, correct, Chief?
Yes, sir.
So most of them would be on our current benefit package, right?
I can't speak to that specifically. If they were retired, then they would be getting the retirement. Those that left before and didn't qualify for retirement, say they've worked here 5 or 10 years and went and found other employment, they're not on our benefits.
Okay. I was just trying to gain the beneficial side of bringing them back outside of the additional police force and you know, somewhat a quick training relicensing. But on the benefit and on the payout side, I think we should be looking at realizing something there from hiring a new recruit. You would have this reserve force and potentially could be offsetting some of your costs on your benefit package because it would already be, some of them would already be qualified for that.
I'm not sure if
they're all going to be qualified to do what they're doing, and they'll be providing services for the city at no cost to the city. So it's a benefit to the organization for sure.
Okay. And they would be covered on our health and liability insurance, correct?
They would be covered under workers' compensation.
Correct.
Okay.
While working for us, if they're injured in the line of duty or on the job, workers' compensation will apply to that. They do not have any health insurance through the city, except that they might have as a retiree.
As a retiree.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Because there would be a pure volunteer, kind of like our handicap patrol. They are not employees per se.
Okay.
They're volunteers, but as Mr. Miller said, if they were to be injured on the job, then workers' comp would cover that.
Okay. Yeah, so that's helpful to understand. And then on our budget side, we don't see an increase, but then I was looking for maybe a potential benefit that didn't cost our budget, but still would benefit that volunteer.
Well, potentially, there could be a benefit if you look at, we have minimum staffing levels. And so if I have a number of reserve officers that are working on a particular shift, we may not have to hire to backfill those open positions, which would save us in overtime, which is always a challenge, if that makes sense.
That does. Thank you, Chief.
Yes. Any other questions of me?
Thank you, Chief Funtek. I know you're coming back to do a couple of others, but we would be remiss if we didn't especially thank you for your service this week. It's been a bit of a challenging service week, and I know you played a role in that. We really do appreciate the way that resolved.
Yes.
I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
a lot of training goes into being able to perform that. And
Absolutely. We've got a fantastic team, and I'm just a very small part of it, and I'm just proud to be part of a great police department.
we appreciate your leadership and your service very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion with regard to item 3G?
Yes, Mayor, we do. I move to adopt ordinance number 8028, amending the Amarillo Municipal Code, Chapter 10-4, Article 1, to add sections 10-4-12 through 10-4-14 to create a police reserve force.
Second.
It's been moved by the Mayor Pro Tem and seconded by Councilmember Sauer to approve ordinance number 8028. Any further questions or discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. That passes with the 4-0 vote. Item 3H.
All right, Mayor. Item 3H is an ordinance that would allow and facilitate the City of Amarillo to utilize any unclaimed property held by the Amarillo Police Department after the required waiting periods have been met. Assistant Chief Funtek is here to answer any questions you might have, or I might be able to answer any questions you have. But if there's any questions, please feel free to ask.
Do I need to tee it up at all, explain anything, or you don't have any questions? Are we good?
Is it as obvious as it looks?
Pretty much, Mayor. In the past, the police department occasionally will convert some items once they've met the requirements where a judge can sign off that the property is unclaimed. And if it's an item that we can use rather than perhaps sending it to auction, which would be the normal process, say we have a zero-turn lawnmower that was recovered and nobody claims it. Well, we need that out at our gun range so we can put in a process to request converting that property and using it. So this would just expand it. If there were other items that any other city department would potentially need, we can follow that same process.
And there's a process externally, I mean, like it goes up the chain and somebody outside the department makes a determination
That's
on
correct.
whether or
It
not
goes
that-
through a judge, has to sign off on it.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion with regard to 3H?
Yes, Mayor, we do. I move to adopt ordinance number 8029, amending the Amarillo Municipal Code, Chapter 10-4, Article 2, Section 10-4-23, to allow any city department to benefit from certain unclaimed property held by the Amarillo Police Department.
Second.
There's a motion from the Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Mr. Stanley, with regard to ordinance number 8029. Any further questions or discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. That passes with the 4-0 vote. Item 3I.
Hi, Mayor. Item 3I is a ordinance amendment that will touch mostly municipal court items. We've got Donna Knight, Director of Court Services, here to make a very brief presentation, answer any questions council have. But I will tell you that from my reading it, the most noteworthy thing that I think that y'all will be interested in is it's going to provide the first 30 minutes of paid parking for free. Now, people are going to still have to log in through the app and check in, but those first 30 minutes are going to be free. So they'll be able to go to Jimmy John's, they'll be able to go to anywhere they want to run in and out of. Didn't mean to do a plug for any one business, just thinking of something that affects me on a regular basis. Donna.
You're right, that is the most notable part, the 30-minute per 24-hour period for a parking space downtown. After that time, the dollar will apply for any portion of an hour. And then the other parts of the amendment are 1657B1, the exemptions listed. Additional city holidays have been added since this ordinance went into place. We're just adding those in. And then 16524, we're just clarifying a reference for the minimum insurance for the valet parking services.
Any questions for Donna? Yes, sir.
So if you can be real elementary in explaining this. So when you pull up, you don't have 30 minutes free, and then you get in your app and set the timer.
Right.
You pull up, you go ahead and put in the zone, and you hit, will it now give you an option that you plan on being gone?
Will.
Okay.
I haven't been able to look at it because we haven't set it up here, and they couldn't give me another jurisdiction that had it currently set up to look at. But it's my understanding that they'll go in, they'll log into their app like they do now. They'll select the 30-minute free time period. They will need to remember if their time goes over the 30 minutes to go in and log in and pay.
And the app's always really good about sending you like 13 or 14 emails. So
Yes.
you should be prompted to spend the extra $1 and avoid the $25 ticket.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, usually there's a notice that pops up that tells you when your time limit has expired, and then you just go back in there.
It's my understanding you can set your own
Yeah.
preference.
I think just in advertising it, I love the fact that we do have free parking downtown, again, for 30 minutes. And that we still need you to download the app and put in your information and click that it's not just 30 minutes from when you say you parked there.
And I will be working with communications to get that out to the public.
Great. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Donna? Thank you, Donna.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion with regard to item 3I?
Yes, Mayor, we do. I move to adopt ordinance number 8030, amending Amarillo Municipal Code, Chapter 16-5, Section 16-5-6 and 16-5-7 to reflect the city's changes in paid parking, and also amending Section 16-5-24 to clearly reference insurance requirements for valet services.
Second.
It's been moved by the Mayor Pro Tem and seconded by Dr. Sauer to approve ordinance number 8030 with regard to changes in paid parking and insurance requirements for valet services. Any discussion or questions on the motion? All of those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same sign. That passes with the 4-0 vote. Item 3J.
All right, Mayor. Item 3J, I just want to give a very brief overview, and then I and Laura Storrs, anybody else in the room that might be able to help can answer any questions council might have. This is a LGC recommendation to consider an ordinance modifying the parking fees at the city's parking garage on Buchanan. Currently, our daily parking fee, if you want to stay for a full day, is $7. This will move it to $11 a day. It will also move the hourly rate, which is currently $2, to a new hourly rate of $4 an hour. It's important to note that the $11 is only slightly higher than what the original pro forma called for the initial daily rate to be, which was $10. It also called for that $10 rate to be evaluated every year and modified on an annual basis. So we're still below where we would be at this time if we had started at the pro forma rate. However, this is a recommended modification to the parking rate fees at the city's parking garage. It will still be less than the daily and hourly rates at the airport parking garage. So with that said, is there any questions that council might have? And Councilmember Stanley was in the LGC meeting where the recommendation was made, might have more flavor or color to add to what I just said.
It's needed. So we are trying to move the needle in the right direction, and the parking garage over there was still priced below what the embassy was charging. So we moved our fees up to be more in line with what the neighbors doing, and I don't feel like it's a financial impact to anybody, and I think it gets us on pace to where we need to be long term.
questions? Okay. With that, do we have a motion with regard to, Mr. Stanley, do you want to make the motion?
Yes, Mayor. I move to adopt item 3J, ordinance number 8031, as stated on the agenda.
Second.
So it's been moved by Councilmember Stanley and seconded by Dr. Sauer to raise the parking fees in the downtown parking garage. Any questions or discussion about that motion? All of those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. That passes with a 4-0 vote. Item 3K.
Hi, Mayor. Item 3K is a record services contract that would award a contract to T. Miller Wrecking, or T. Miller for record services. We have Assistant Chief Funtech to present the item, and he and I and any other appropriate staff members can answer any questions council might have.
Yes, sir. Now, the Amarillo Police Department, we strongly support a sole provider. I can tell you I've worked with both systems in my 30 years on the department, and we believe that it's more efficient and operationally effective having a sole provider. As it is with the rotational system, the communication section has to look up a rotation list, see who the provider is, and then contact that company. It doesn't sound like a long delay, but any extra seconds or just minutes that we can pull our officers and other emergency staff off the streets and clear a scene is very important. They're inherently dangerous, so any delay is inefficient and risky to the public and our officers. I stopped many times on I-27 coming to work, got it down to one lane, and let me tell you, it's not a lot of fun when these cars are jamming up behind you and then you have 2 or 3 more crashes behind you. So if we can do anything to speed that up, it's going to be to the benefit of the public and our public safety officers. Operationally and on the administrative side, it's very efficient to have a sole provider. If you're having issues with response times or not cleaning up the scene properly, rather than dealing with a number of different owner-operators, we've got one company to deal with. And I just think that's more effective and efficient. I think that builds for stronger relationships, and it's a smoother process, so to speak.
So, Chief Funtech.
Yes, sir.
In doing that, does the whenever you send out the RFP or the RFQ for this one, do the wrecking services have to meet a minimum standard of equipment, personnel, that kind of thing?
Yes, sir.
To be able to fulfill this?
They have to provide that, show that they can handle that. They have to agree to a certain response time within that as well. And I have not, again, I'm filling in, I have not seen that RFP, but that's always built into that. They have to meet a minimum standard of equipment, training as well, and all of those necessary items.
So, based on that, but you haven't looked at the RFP?
I'm sorry, I have not seen this one. But I know that's a standard.
So how many did we have applied in the RFP?
How many bids?
How many bids did we have?
So is
I don't have that information.
So is Trey here?
Yeah, Trey could come up and tell us that.
Yeah.
So we did have 4 or 5 different ones that, and then you all scored them, went through the whole process, and so all of these were either they had the equipment and the personnel, or they didn't, and they were therefore not able to do it, and then you scored these, just like any other RFP that you all end up having.
Yes, sir. So we received the
So
responses.
Trey, could you please use the microphone? Thank you so much.
Sorry about that. Yeah, we received the responses, and then they're evaluated and sent off to the evaluation committee independently, and then they score them independently, and they return them back to purchasing. And then we compile the scores and come up with the highest evaluated.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So how is so tell me how independent the group is.
So we'll have an evaluation team meeting, and we go over the evaluation team rules. We'll hand out all the copies of the RFPs, and then they take those RFPs back to their offices or back home, and they'll evaluate them independently. And then they send those score sheets back to us through email, or they'll physically deliver it.
So who are the members, not specifically names, but there's certain positions that are drawn into that evaluation committee, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
I was not part of this, the evaluation or this part of this RFP. My predecessor was. I'm not sure who was on the committee.
I believe Chief Burtonfeld was, but
Yeah.
again, I'm sorry, I didn't have all that information here given to me prior to today.
And I can get that information to you.
Well, all I'm looking for is I'm just trying to make for sure. So, number one, you all have made for sure that all of these people that were available, that they had the equipment, they had the personnel to handle what you all deemed to be the appropriate amount. It was independently done without bias. They were scored, and then it's simply your office then taking those scores, ranking them, and then making the award, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm just trying to make for sure that all of this is playing out just like normal. There's not something that would be a little bit different about this one.
No, if anything, we're probably more strict in this one than any of ours.
Okay. So my next question is going to be addressed to the city manager. So I know that you've been in other cities, and so can you give me, in your opinion, what kind of situations you've been? Has it been multiple? Has it been single? Has it been a combination of those? And what is your opinion of how those work?
When you say multiple and single,
Well, I mean, so in other words, right now we have a list, a rotating list of records, right? And that's one way to do it. The other way is you award the contract to a given entity. In your past experience, have you experienced both sides of those contracts?
yes.
Okay. And in your opinion, I would like to know what was your result? What did you favor in that type of a situation?
Well, I didn't work directly with that process. I will tell you that in talking to the police departments in every city I've been in that had a rotation or an opportunity for a single service, a sole provider, every police department that I've worked with in North Richland Hills and San Marcos and here has recommended to go to a sole source provider for this. In the department that did have that. That was North Richland Hills. It was continuously recommended to do it, and it's a pretty competitive environment where people wanted a rotation. The department wanted to have a single company to work with, rather than having to have a management protocol for however many companies you're talking about. You can just do that once. There's a lot of efficiencies that are there for that, but I'm putting words into the chief's mouth. But I do want to tell you that that was the feedback from the department that I worked with in North Richland Hills, and also the request and desire for the department that I worked with in San Marcos, but we just never made it through the process to this point there.
I concur with Mr. Miller. I mean, those are the points that I made. It is much more efficient, and like I said, anything we can do to smooth it out, speed things up, have things done safely, correctly, and consistently, we feel like we get that better from a sole provider.
So, Mr. City Manager, during public address, Mr. Ricky Cantu, he provided us with a document, and it appeared to have some discrepancy regarding the dates, as well as when the bid was awarded or was not awarded. Could you speak to that information that he provided, or maybe Trey? I don't know.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I can speak to it. And Trey is here as well to answer any questions council might have. But the letters to the vendors that submitted proposals to the city were sent out August 23rd, notifying them that the city was recommending T. Miller Wrecker Company to the council for an award. The city received requests for those bids from two different people on August 26th and September 1st. So we submitted a request to the Attorney General for an opinion and noted to them that we had received requests for these bids on the 26th and the 1st, and we wanted him to say, or the Attorney General's office to say, whether or not we could release that information. It further says the bids are being evaluated, bid has not yet been awarded, and it has not yet been awarded. Until this item is concluded, it will not have been awarded.
Right. So in other words, until we as city council approve it today.
Correct, correct.
So the difference is that Trent had made a recommendation, but no action and no award had been made.
Well, and it wasn't Trent making the recommendation. It was the selection committee, the evaluation committee, that was making a recommendation to select one company based on the proposals that were submitted to the city.
Anything else, council?
The only thing I'll say was, over the past 6 years, I've received several complaints or contacts concerning the fact of the way that the rotating deal actually worked, and some complaints about some people picking and choosing or not, or stepping out of the rotation and doing other things, and that it was making it difficult on some of the wrecking services and also making it difficult on you guys and on the fire department also. Is that correct?
I would agree with that, sir. I would tell you in that system, you have room for human error, you have room for computer software error. So it goes through that rotation, and perhaps whether the communications person misread the name, sent a different company, if they're not aware of that, then they missed out on that potential income. So when we would find out that they did, we would try to roll them back in, but you don't know what you don't know. So if they were missed and weren't aware of it, then we're not meeting, in my mind, we're not meeting all of the standards that we need to meet. So you eliminate that by having a sole provider.
And a couple of the companies that I had received complaints from, both of them had made the statement that they would prefer to go to a single, and it didn't make any difference to them who got that contract, as opposed to the fact of it would help tie up all the loose ends that you all are dealing with.
Yes.
And so I think I would work toward that also. I mean, after the things that have occurred and the people I've talked to over the past 6 years on that, I'm kind of surprised it's taken us this long to get here. But I understand the process, because it's a big change.
It is.
It's a big change.
What's the length of this contract, Chief?
Brian can probably speak to that.
The RFP was for 3 years with an additional opportunity to renew for 1-year terms 3 times. So
Okay.
that's what the RFP has in it. So.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yes. So, Chief, does the police department oversee the wrecker service, and does this go through dispatch?
It goes to the communication center, yes.
So communication center contacts, yes. and who would T. Miller answer to in the way of performance?
If there were issues with the performance, we would go back to the contract. We would put them on notice, whatever the deficiency was, and after a certain amount of violations, I believe there's fines that come into play, and then eventually they can come off the contract if they're not meeting their services as built into the contract. So we don't manage them, but as part of the contract management, we have to oversee that. And if we're having those issues, we give them written communication of any violations and notice so they can correct things moving forward to hopefully, eliminate or minimize any of those issues.
But you would do that through the purchasing department, or you guys would work in
No, we don't get
conjunction with
purchasing
you?
involved on that one. Typically what we do, we have a public safety advisor.
Mm-hmm.
They would bring it to my attention, and they would produce that and put them on notice.
Okay, so you would do that without purchasing?
Correct.
Okay.
Because that contract's already in play.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really, purchasing gets us to the beginning of that, but then it's on us and our legal team to manage that, working with the wrecker companies, if that makes sense.
But you all do have a system in place by which you can have some hold accountability to whoever has that contract.
We do, and so again, there's 2 pieces to that. One, whenever we first dispatch out and contact a wrecker company to come to the scene, and then say they violate the time frame to show up on scene, then we have to rely on our staff to let us know, hey, we had to call them after 30 minutes, so we went to another, and I've again, I don't know the exact time frame, but if they didn't meet the time frame, we'll either, sometimes they'll call them and they're like, tell us, hey, we're 5 minutes out, we'll be there. If that's the case, we usually work with them. If we get told it's going to be another 15 or 20 minutes, we may jump to the next wrecker on the list and try to get them there quicker.
So, Chief, if I could ask, what is the process if they were not able to respond per the contract? So are we going to keep relationship with additional wrecker services and have any kind of formal contract with them, or would that just be on a independent, call basis? Or Mr. McWilliams, if you can tell me that. Yes,
the way that the way that this new contract will work, Team Miller, if they're awarded the contract, would be in charge of that. It's their job to get a wrecker there, and if they have to hire someone else, then that's their job. Now there is a time period in which the contract will provide that if they cannot immediately respond or they do not act within the bounds of that contract, that the city can call someone, because we still have to clean up the area. We've still got to get a scene cleared. So the city retains its ability to do that, but under this particular agreement, Team Miller, if awarded the contract, would be the one that would initially try to provide that.
So this provides for a subcontract clause where this wrecker service could subcontract to additional wreckers if needed. And then what is the specifics on the termination clause in the contract, if you know them? Like how many I guess, failures to perform would constitute a breach or a termination?
There is a number that a time period in which they're given notice to correct whatever problems they are. I think it's three after three. We can do whatever we need to do. But I will tell you that there are other breach clauses in it, and so we could probably terminate it even sooner, depending on what that breach is. So
okay.
They still have to meet all applicable laws, both our ordinance and state provisions. They are heavily regulated, and so there are some outs in that way, which is very typical in these contracts. These contracts all have that in there. So hopefully that answers your question.
It does, and I'm not against a single source provider. I just want to make sure that we've thought through the process if for some reason they were not able to respond, and kind of what that looks like going forward for the benefit of our police as well as our community.
Right. Yeah, they are, again, able to supplement their services if they have to reach out to another company. And as Brian has covered, if they're routinely, I say routinely, that's not going to use a legal term there, but if we're having issues where they're not providing services appropriately, then we would go to the contract, have those discussions, and then, of course, that would be for y'all to decide where we go from there.
So we also have another thing that kind of comes up on a lot of the things that we've done and have seen change over the past 5 or 6 years is best practices. Would you consider this to be considered a move toward a best practice?
Just anecdotally, kind of like Mr. Miller alluded to, just knowing from around the state, the many police departments that are using a sole source provider, there seems to be a consensus that that's the best way practice. To go.
Okay.
I will tell you that I'm not aware of a single police department that wishes they could go back to a rotation, just for the administrative managerial aspect of it. Okay. Also having one company that when you have a failure to perform, you have that one company you can go to for corrective measures.
Correct.
And they are motivated. I've never had a situation where we've had to cancel a sole source contract. It is always I won't say controversial, but it is always a contract that garners a lot of attention because there's a lot of people that want that business. But from a serving the public standpoint, we are more efficient, we're more effective, we're safer, we're faster when we're dealing with one company rather than multiple companies.
So
it doesn't matter which company it is.
So just from my understanding, for the terminology piece of it, so I know we were saying sole source, and then there's
well,
a
I'm
single,
using that as sole provider.
Yeah,
sole
so
contract.
we're really talking single sourcing, then, right?
Yes,
okay.
ma'am. I'm mixing up my purchasing
that's true.
language
Sole
with
source
my
means there's
contract
one company
language.
that can provide the service.
Right,
Sole
what,
provider, I will
means that
put it
we're only
that.
using
Sole
one.
provider.
Right. Yeah.
That's good
So-
distinction.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
wanted to be sure of that.
Absolutely.
So I say that correctly. So.
There was a question earlier on who was on the selection committee. The selection committee was Assistant Police Chief Johnson,
Okay.
Assistant Fire Chief Mason, and Nicole Jameson, who is in our finance department.
Okay. That makes me happy.
Any other questions? Thank you, Chief.
Thank
Do we have
you
a
all.
motion on
Appreciate
this
it.
item?
Yes, Mayor, I move to award a contract to T. Miller for record services related to abandoned, impounded, junk, and disabled vehicles related to all city operations, including but not limited to public safety and emergency incidents, and further authorize the city manager to finalize and execute a single source agreement with the T. Miller Record Services for the same.
Second.
It's been moved by the Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Dr. Sauer to approve this item with regard to a single provider towing contract. Any further discussion on the motion? All of those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. That passes with a 4-0 vote. And with that, we are at the end of our non-executive session agenda. At this time, I would ask our city attorney to please read our dismissal to executive session.
Yes, ma'am. Pursuant to Texas Open Meetings Act, closed session of the Amarillo City Council was announced on October the 25th, 2022 at 3:07 p.m. under the following authority. Section 551.07, one consultant and attorney about a pending or contemplated litigation or settlement of the same, or on a matter in which the attorney's duty to the governmental body under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct conflicts with this chapter.
Thank you. With that, we're dismissed to executive session.